Years ago, Jacques Maritain observed that Christians had accomplished substantial improvements in society in matters of social justice and in advancing the common good by what he described as the evangelization of the secular conscience. But recent events lead us to the question, has the process in some ways been reversed? Have we not witnessed in some ways a type of secular evangelization of the Christian conscience? Secularization affects not only the presence of nativity scenes at Christmas or the words "under God" in our Pledge of Allegiance. It drains meaning from Christian life by secularizing the way Christians think and the values by which we live. In these ways, secularization diminishes the ways in which Christians are capable of presenting through their lives a new reality in the world. An adequate response, of course, cannot consist in a vain effort to turn back the clock and attempt at some sort of restoration, any more than the answer to Hitler's aggression could have consisted in the restoration of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The answer, I believe, must be found in an approach which takes as its basis the view articulated also in 1965 by Romano Guardini. In a letter to Pope Paul VI, Guardini wrote this: "At the time of my first theological studies, something became clear to me that since then has determined my entire theological work. What can convince modern people is not a historical or a psychological or a continually ever modernizing Christianity, but only the unrestricted and uninterrupted message of revelation." A year earlier, Joseph Ratzinger himself put forward the issue in a slightly different way. Speaking to university students at Munster Cathedral, Father Ratzinger said this: "It has been asserted that our century is characterized by an entirely new phenomenon, the appearance of people incapable of relating to God." Then he continued, "I believe the real temptation for someone who is a Christian does not consist in the theoretical question of whether God exists. What really torments us today, what bothers us much more, is the inefficacy of Christianity. After 2,000 years of Christian history, we can see nothing that might be a new reality in the world. What is all this array of dogma and worship and church?" He continued, "If at the end of it all, we are still thrown back onto our own poor resources. That in turn brings us back again, in the end, to the question about the gospel of the Lord. What did he actually proclaim and bring among men?" I would suggest that these words of Guardini and of Ratzinger, written 4 decades before the election of Cardinal Ratzinger to the papacy, provides one of the clearest summaries of the mission of the pontificate of Benedict XVI. I think this is why Deus Caritas Est and Spe Salve, Benedict presented such beautiful meditations on the theological virtues of faith, hope, and charity, which is to say, beautiful meditations on the foundation of the Christian moral life. I believe this is why these encyclicals, Pope Benedict has sought to distinguish the Christian understanding of love, charity, and hope from their secular counterparts. Meditations which lead the believer to make his own the prayer at the end of Deus Caritas Est. Show us Jesus. Lead us to him. Teach us to know and love him, so that we too can become capable of true love and be fountains of living water in the midst of a thirsting world. The world today is, in so many ways, like the woman at the well, asking where she may find this living water? And the answer simply cannot be found in the secular city's formula of a non-religious interpretation of biblical concepts. I believe this is why Benedict said last month at St. Patrick's Cathedral that our most urgent challenge is to communicate the joy born of faith and the experience of God's love. This is the hallmark of a life dedicated to accepting the unrestricted and uninterrupted message of revelation in Jesus Christ. And as Benedict expressed in such a clear and convincing way to thousands of young adults at St. Joseph's Seminary, this message is always new, always fresh, and always contemporary. At the root of the problem of secularism is a disordering of the relationship between faith and reason. And the challenge presented by secularism will not be adequately addressed without the proper realignment of this relationship. In his Angelus Address in 2007, on the feast of St. Thomas Aquinas, Pope Benedict spoke of the angelic doctor as an effective model of harmony between faith and reason. On that occasion, he also reminded us that faith presupposes reason and perfects it, and reason, enlightened by faith, finds the strength to rise to knowledge of God and spiritual realities. This task is at the center of the new evangelization. Few persons in the Catholic Church today know as well as you precisely in what ways St. Thomas remains an effective model of harmony between faith and reason. Few persons in the Church today are as well equipped as you to take up the task to which our Holy Father is calling us. 29 years ago in Washington, I became convinced that we are living at a turning point in the life of the Church. As we enter the new millennium, Pope John Paul II predicted that this turning point would not be a winter for Christianity, but that it would be a new springtime of the gospel. Now we have seen firsthand what kind of hope Providence has given us as a leader in this springtime. I believe that it truly will be a springtime, and that those of you graduating today will help to make this a reality. Thank you very much.